For number 1, you're going to write down A, B, C, or D. It's just what you're going to do. And for number 2, you're going to give me the greater than, less than, or equal to sign. That's it. There's really no questions here. I don't know why you'd have a question. 8, number 1, you're going to give me A, B, C, or D. For number 1, it says 406,009. 406,009. The only one here that actually says 406,000 is this one. So that tells you right there, it's got to be the one that's the right answer, right? But even, okay, 406,000 and then 9. Agreed? Does that make sense? 406,009. The answer is C. Agreed? This other one, how do you compare numbers? What do you do to compare numbers? What do you do to compare numbers? Well, right. Start on the left, and you start looking at the numbers, right? And you go, okay, there's a 3. That's in the 10,000s place. This over here is also a 3 in the 10,000s place. They're tied. We got to go to the next one. Over here we have a 1 in the thousands place. Here we have a 0 in the thousands place. Is one of them bigger than the other? Yes, clearly. The 1 is bigger than the 0. And we're done. Yes? All right. The most important concept that I could teach you this entire year is estimating. Let me give an example. If I said 4.9 times 5. You following me here? 4.9 times 5. Let me explain what I'm talking about here. You gave me this answer and you went 4.9 times 5 and you gave me the answer of 245. A lot of you math students who are not meticulous, who aren't paying attention, who aren't good estimators, might go, oh, okay, my answer is 245. And in their answer column, they might write 245. Where if somebody was a good estimator, without even doing any real extra work, they would know that that can't be true. That is not true. That answer is wrong. And they don't even need to do the whole math problem. They don't even need to know. They just know that it's wrong. How could somebody just very quickly look at that and go, that doesn't even make any sense at all? How could they do that? Dylan, how could they do that?
Because it doesn't have any decimals.
Nope. Well, that's true. But that isn't always the case. What else? How can they know that this is wrong? How could they know?
Because 4.9 is only almost 5, and 5 and 5 is only
Thank you. That's just it right there. Listen, 4.9 is really close to what number? 5. And 5 times 5, we know is 25. That means that 4.9 times 5 is going to be really close to 25. Since 4.9 is almost 5, and 5 times 5 is 25, that means that 4.9 times 5 is going to be pretty close to 25. We wrote down the answer 245. That can't be true because 245 isn't anywhere near 25. Do you see what I'm talking about? Being able to estimate is so important because it makes it so that when you give an answer, you can quickly look at it and go, that doesn't make any sense. That's not even close. You see what I'm talking about? Being able to estimate makes things so much easier for math students because estimating doesn't give you the exact answer, but it can certainly eliminate wrong answers. If I was to take the 6th grade Terra Nova test, it's like the SAT test, the Terra Nova test, I could probably get all the math problems right without actually doing any real math. All I would do is estimate. I could eliminate wrong answers just by saying that one can't be true, and that one can't be true, and that one can't be true. And this one is close. If there's one that's close and three that aren't close, which one's the right answer? You see what I'm talking about? That's why estimating is so important. It helps a lot. It helps a lot. Let's look at this. If I was to ask you to estimate by rounding, what does rounding mean again? Rounding, if I said 248 and I asked you to round that to the nearest 10, this is what you do. This is what you do. You find the tens place, right? And he looks to his right, right? He looks to the right. He looks over here at the 8 and decides, see, if the 8 is if that number is 5 or bigger, then the 4 becomes a 5. If it's 4 or less, then the 4 stays the same. That's all. And so if I ask you to round to the nearest 10, you go, the 4 looks to the 8, goes, oh man, I got to get bigger. It's 250. Do you agree? That's estimating. Rounding is estimating. Did you also know that there's no real wrong answer when you estimate, if you really estimated? Here's the deal. Let's just say this. Let's just say that I have... I won't use 0.2. I'll say 48. And I asked you to just estimate that. What is that? If I said estimate 48, what would you say the answer is? Slayton, 50. Most people would say 50. What if I was going to be dividing this number by 9? Let's just say that I was going to divide that number by 9. Is 50 the best choice to divide by 9? No. So you wouldn't necessarily want to always make 48 50. What should I make 48 to make it so that it's easily divisible by 9? What should I make it?
49.
What now?
49.
Not 49.
45.
45. I would make 48 45, right? Because what is 45 divided by 9? What is 45 divided by 9? 5. Right? I wanted to, you could estimate it using anything you wanted. What if the original number 48 I was going to be multiplying by 2? What should I then estimate 48 to be? 50. Make it 100, right? Does that make sense? It just depends on what you're doing. It just depends on what you're doing as to how you estimate it. It isn't always the same answer. It's not always the same concept. Right? Look, let's say this. Let's just say that I was... There's lots of, listen, I could estimate 298 to be lots of things. It would just depend on what I was doing, right? But let's just say that here's our question, 298 divided by 29. How would you estimate this? Remember, estimating, what is the point of estimating? It's just to make sure that your answer is close. Make sure that your answer could be right. Does that make sense? What would you estimate 298 to be? 300. You said 390?
No, 290.
Okay, you said 290. Okay, that's fine. 290, and you divide that by 29, and that makes the answer 10. You know what I would have done, though? I would have actually estimated them both differently. I would have said 300 divided by 30. Am I allowed to do that? Absolutely. There's really no rules about estimating. There really isn't. It's just, can you play with the numbers to make them work so that it's easily done? Either way, what's 300 divided by 30? 10. As long as your answer comes, what if your answer came out to be 9.98? Would you say that that's probably true? Yeah, because 9.98 is very close to 10. What if you came up and the answer, what if your real answer came out to be, 11.48? Would you say that it's probably right? Probably. You know why? Because 11.48 is still really close to 10. Does that make sense, Reed?
Actually, it's not possible because
I understand what you're saying. I'm making a point. Obviously, right? I'm making a point. You all understand what I'm saying? You estimate and you can choose different number. Look, let's choose another one. How would you estimate this? What would your estimated answer be? What would your estimated answer be? Morgan? 3. Because you would go, okay, hold on, 16. There's a lot of different numbers that you could estimate 16 to be. 16 could be 20. It just depends on what you're doing, right? It could be 15. You might even leave it alone, right? Here's the deal. 16 divided by 5. 16 would turn to 15, and 15 divided by 5 is 3. You want to make sure that both these numbers jive. You know what jiving is? It means that they work well together. They dance together. You want to make sure that the numbers jive. Does the numbers 16 and 5 jive very well? No. Does 15 and 5 jive very well? Yes. What if, for the number 16, instead of it was times 3? All of a sudden, 16 and 3, they don't jive very well, right? They really don't. What could you do? What would you estimate 16 to be then?
20.
I would say 20. 20 times 3 is 60. Does that make sense? You just want to make it jive. What if it was 16 divided by 3.8? You know what I would do? Would you change the 16? No. I wouldn't even change the 16. I'd leave it alone. In fact, this time I would change the 3.8 to 4. You just want to make sure the numbers jive. As long, and listen, what if somebody decided instead of making that 4, they decided to make this 20 and this 4? Would they be wrong to do that? No. It's estimating. Your answer is still going to be pretty close. As long as your real answer is in the neighborhood of the estimated answer, then at least you know you're in the neighborhood and it's probably right. Does that make sense? Estimating does not guarantee that it's right. It just makes it so that you're probably right. You guys got it? Okay. Let me look at this. Look at number 11 on page 10. We don't have much time here. Look at number 11 on page 10. It says 47 plus 228 plus 23. 47 plus 228 plus 43. What would you, it says to round this, to round it. What does that mean? Where would you round it to? Would you round it to the nearest, what? Probably the tens. You agree with that? You round to the nearest tens? I would. Honestly, for tonight's homework for you, I don't care how you do it. What I do not want, let me explain, let me be clear here. I do not want the exact answer. If you give me the exact answer, guess what I'm doing tomorrow? I'm marking it wrong because you didn't follow directions. I want you to estimate. I want the estimated answer. I do not want the exact answer. I guarantee you, a couple of you in here are going to give me the exact answer, and I'm going to mark it wrong, and I'm going to say, do you remember? when I did this and I circled it like 10 times, and you're going to go, oh, I forgot. Make sense? I don't want the exact answer. I want you to estimate. So I don't really care how you get the answer. As long as your answer is in the neighborhood, then you got it right. It just needs to be estimated. There should not be any answer of 81. An answer of 81, the answer should be 80. Does that make sense? There should be round numbers, estimated numbers. Are you all following me? How many of you are going to give me the exact answer? Oh! I don't want the exact answer. Your homework. Let me give it to you. Write it down, and then you can go. It's due tomorrow.